One sweet potato bag can give you two harvests, tender leaves during the season and storage roots at the end. But plant in cold weather, use rich soil, or take too many leaves, and you may get beautiful vines with almost no potatoes. Hi, I'm May from May's Chinese Garden. Let's grow both. The first thing to understand is that a sweet potato is not grown like an ordinary potato. The part we eat underground is technically a swollen storage root, not a stem tuber, and the plant is normally started from a rooted shoot called a slip. That difference matters. Do not cut a sweet potato into pieces and bury them as you would seed potatoes. For the most reliable start, buy healthy, disease-free slips from a reputable nursery or seed supplier. A good slip should look firm and green with a healthy stem and several leaves. Many are around 8 to 12 inches long when they are ready to plant. You can produce slips from a sweet potato at home, but it takes time. Start roughly 6 to 8 weeks before you expect to plant outside. Choose an untreated root intended for food production, keep it warm in moist sand or a suitable propagation mix, and remove the shoots when they are large enough to root. Grocery store sweet potatoes sometimes sprout, but some have been stored or treated in ways that delay sprouting, and you may not know the variety maturity time or disease history. For a first container crop named certified slips, remove a great deal of uncertainty. Choose an edible variety suited to your growing season. Orange, white, and purple sweet potatoes can all work, but they do not all mature at the same speed. If your summers are short, look for an early or short season variety rather than choosing only by color. And do not assume every decorative sweet potato vine sold with ornamental plants should go into the kitchen. Use a variety specifically sold as an edible crop, grown without treatments that are not approved for food plants. Now let's choose the bag. A 15 to 20 gallon fabric grow bag is a forgiving size for one plant. A container holding roughly 2 cubic feet of mix also works well. Smaller containers can produce a crop, but they leave less room for storage roots and dry much faster. The bag must drain freely. Fabric allows air into the root zone, but it also loses moisture faster than a solid pot. That means good drainage and regular checking, not constantly wet soil. Place the empty bag where the plant will grow before you fill it. A full bag is awkward to move, especially after watering. Sweet potatoes need warmth and at least 6 to 8 hours of direct sun for strong root production. If the bag sits directly on garden soil, roots may grow through the bottom and into the ground. That is not dangerous, but it defeats the idea of a contained harvest. Put it on paving or sturdy supports that keep the drainage holes open without giving the roots access to the soil below. Never leave the bag standing in trapped water. Fill the bag with a light, loose container mix. Do not fill it with heavy garden soil. Dense soil holds less air, may drain poorly, and can restrict the developing roots or leave them long and misshapen. A commercial potting mix intended for vegetables is the simplest option. If it contains no nutrients, add fertilizer according to the product directions for container vegetables. Sweet potatoes are not heavy nitrogen feeders, so avoid repeated feeding with high nitrogen fertilizer. This is one of the most important rules in the whole video. More green growth does not automatically mean more sweet potatoes. Too much nitrogen can produce an impressive curtain of leaves while root production remains disappointing. Fresh manure and heavy applications of rich fertilizer can create the same problem. Use a moderate feed, follow the label, and do not add more simply because the vines are growing quickly. Unlike ordinary potatoes, sweet potatoes do not need soil repeatedly piled around the stems as they grow. Fill the bag properly at the beginning. You're not building a potato tower. Wait to plant until the danger of frost has passed, the soil or potting mix has warmed, and nights are reliably mild. Sweet potatoes are tropical plants. A cold bag can stop a slip before it has established a useful root system. If the slip was grown in a greenhouse or indoors, harden it off before planting. Give it short periods outside in a sheltered place, then increase its exposure over several days. This helps it adjust to direct sun, wind, and changing temperature. Make a hole deep enough to hold the roots without folding them into a tight bundle. Plant the slip roughly 2 to 4 inches deep, or follow the depth supplied with your variety. Bury the roots and lower stem while keeping the leaves above the surface. Firm the mix gently around the slip and water thoroughly for the first 2 weeks. Even moisture is especially important because the new plant is trying to establish roots. Do not mistake a little early wilting for failure. A newly planted slip may look tired for a short time. Keep the mix moist but not saturated, protect it from harsh wind, and look for fresh growth from the tip. New leaves are the clearest sign that it has settled in. Once the plant is growing, check the bag rather than following a rigid watering calendar. Press a finger into the top inch of mix. If it is beginning to dry, water slowly until excess drains from the bottom. During hot or windy weather, a fabric bag may need checking every day. During cooler or cloudy weather, it may stay moist much longer. The goal is steady moisture without leaving the roots waterlogged. A light mulch on the surface can reduce evaporation but keep it loose around the stem. If the bag remains wet for days, improve its drainage or reduce the frequency of watering rather than adding more mulch. Now the vines will begin to run, and you have two choices. You can let them trail over the side or guide them loosely onto a strong trellis. Do not tie them tightly. Sweet potato stems can be damaged by thin string, so use soft supports and leave room for growth. If the vines touch moist soil outside the bag, their nodes may produce new roots. For the cleanest container harvest, keep the vines on the bag, paving, or a trellis, rather than allowing them to root throughout a garden bed. And now we reach the first harvest. The leaves, sweet potato leaves, and young shoots are edible, and they are used as greens in several Asian cuisines. Their flavor is mild, and the tender tips can be cooked in stir-fries, soups, or other dishes where you might use a soft leafy green. But the leaves are also the plant's solar panels. They capture the energy used to enlarge the roots underground. If you repeatedly strip the vines, you cannot expect the largest possible root harvest. Wait until the plant is well established and has several vigorous vines. Do not begin cutting from a weak plant that has only just started growing. Choose a healthy vine and take only the soft growing tip with a few young leaves. Leave most of the mature foliage in place, then move to another vine rather than cutting one stem back severely. Harvest small amounts and give the plant time to replace what you removed. If growth slows, the weather cools, or the remaining canopy begins to look thin, stop taking leaves. Think of the greens as a bonus crop, not an unlimited one. If leaves are your main goal, grow a second bag specifically for frequent shoot harvests. Keep the first bag more lightly harvested for the best chance of larger storage roots. Wash the leaves carefully and use only healthy growth from an edible, untreated plant. The young leaves and stems are usually the most tender. Cooking them is a simple way to soften the texture before eating. At this point, the top of the plant may look so vigorous that it seems impossible for anything to go wrong underneath. But 5 mistakes can leave you with a bag full of roots no thicker than pencils. The first is planting too early. Cold soil delays establishment and shortens the useful growing period. The second is insufficient sun. Sweet potatoes may survive in partial shade, but a plant grown mainly for storage roots needs strong light. The third is overcrowding. One healthy slip in a large bag is easier to water and gives the roots more room than several plants competing in the same volume of mix. The fourth is excessive nitrogen. If you have long dark green vines but poor root formation, feeding even more is unlikely to solve the problem. And the fifth is treating every leaf as a free harvest. Heavy, repeated cutting removes the plant's ability to build energy for the roots. There is one more mistake that happens at the very end: harvesting too early. Most sweet potato varieties need roughly 90 to 120 days after planting, although some need longer. Check the maturity range for your variety and count from the day the slip went into the bag. Sweet potatoes do not suddenly become ripe on one exact date. The storage roots begin forming early and continue becoming larger while warm conditions and healthy leaves allow growth. As you approach the expected harvest window, stop taking leaf tips and allow the canopy to support the final stage of root growth. Harvest before frost and before the growing mix becomes cold. Yellowing foliage can be another sign that growth is slowing, but do not wait for frost to kill the plant. Cold injury can reduce the storage quality of the roots. Choose a dry, mild day if possible. The mix should not be saturated, but it should not be so dry and hard that it scrapes the delicate skins. Cut the vines back, place a sheet or large container beside the bag, and tip the entire contents out carefully. Do not stab into the bag with a garden fork if you can avoid it. One hidden root in the wrong place is very easy to puncture. This is the moment people wait all season to see, but do not let excitement turn into rough handling. Freshly harvested sweet potato skins are thin and damage easily. Lift each root instead of throwing it into a bucket. Separate damaged roots from sound ones. Any root that is cut, badly scraped, or bruised should be cooked first, rather than prepared for long storage. Do not scrub the sound roots clean. Brush away loose, mix gently, and begin curing them as soon as possible. Curing is not simply leaving sweet potatoes on a kitchen counter. The professional target is a warm, humid environment around 80 to 85 degrees Fahrenheit or 27 to 29 degrees Celsius with roughly 85 to 90% humidity for 7 to 10 days. Those conditions help small wounds heal and begin converting starches into sugars, improving storage life, flavor, and texture. At home, use the warmest safe place you can manage with good humidity and ventilation. Do not seal wet roots in an airtight container and do not allow them to touch a heating element. If you cannot provide proper curing conditions, use the roots sooner and do not expect the same storage life. After curing, store sound roots somewhere dark with good air movement at roughly 55 to 60 degrees Fahrenheit or 13 to 16 degrees Celsius. Do not refrigerate raw sweet potatoes for long-term storage. Temperatures below about 55 degrees can cause chilling injury, which may leave hard centers and altered flavor after cooking. So the complete method is simple, even though the details matter. Start with a healthy edible slip and a variety that can mature in your climate. Give one plant a large, freely draining bag filled with loose container mix. Wait for warm weather, provide full sun and keep the moisture steady. Avoid excessive nitrogen. Harvest only small amounts of tender growth from an established plant, then leave plenty of foliage to feed the roots. Finally, harvest before frost, handle every root gently, and cure it properly before storage. That is how one grow bag can give you fresh greens above the soil and sweet storage roots below it, without sacrificing one harvest for the other. Tell me in the comments which sweet potato you would grow, orange, white, or purple. And subscribe for the next guide, where I'll show you how to grow edamame in a pot and recognize the short harvest window before the beans become too mature.